Stop whatever you're doing, just for 30 seconds, because what I'm about to share might completely shift the way you see your entire existence. Have you ever felt like something's missing? Like there's a gap in everything you were taught about life, death, and your true identity? Almost like someone tore a chapter out of the story of your soul? Well, you're not wrong. Over 1,200 years ago, a manuscript emerged that held what might be the most guarded truth in human history. But it was buried on purpose. Not because it was false, but because it gave you access to something powerful, something that certain groups didn't want the average person to discover. It detailed what your soul actually experienced before you were born. And now, it's resurfacing. This ancient book, rarely spoken of even in whispers, outlines the sacred stages your soul goes through before it enters the physical world. Known in Latin as the Codex Anime, this mysterious manuscript was created by a secret order of mystics over 12 centuries ago. According to legend, it holds detailed maps of the soul's journey before, during, and after life. It doesn't just challenge what we think we know, it reveals what's been hidden from us. Not to protect us, but to keep us obedient. Each stage it describes uncovers a piece of your true self, a self you were conditioned to forget. Now, imagine knowing, truly knowing, why you were born into this body, this family, and this time. Imagine being able to understand your deepest struggles and most painful moments as part of something greater, a plan you actually chose. We're not talking about speculative theories or trendy philosophies here. We're talking about an ancient preserved spiritual map that was passed down through hidden lineages, far from the eyes of kings, clerics, and rulers. If you unlock this knowledge, your entire life shifts. You begin to see the pattern. You understand that there are no coincidences. Every person who crosses your path does so for a reason. Every challenge you face is a stepping stone toward something more. And maybe the biggest realization of all, there are no true victims in the universe. You've always been the architect of your own journey. Realizing this is like waking up in the middle of a dream and suddenly seeing everything with sharp clarity. You're no longer stuck in guilt or fear or helplessness. You're back in control. Let me ask you, how many times have you looked at your life and wondered, why am I here? What's the point of all this? Most of us move through life like passengers on a train that never stops. Days fly by, people come and go, crises appear, emotions rise and fall, and through it all, we feel like we're just surviving. That foggy sense of being lost or aimless, that's not a coincidence. It's the result of forgetting who you really are and why you came here. But what if I told you that before you were born, you already knew exactly what your soul signed up for? According to the Codex Anime, your soul goes through an incredibly detailed and intentional preparation before incarnating. You, as a free, conscious being, chose your parents. You chose your body. You chose your struggles. You chose your path. And you did it with total clarity. With no fear. No confusion. Because from the soul's perspective, even the most painful experiences serve a purpose. To help you evolve. Just like fire purifies gold, it's through the intensity of life's trials that your soul expands its light. But here's the most comforting part. You didn't do it alone. Energies, wise counselors, who helped you shape the exact life that would allow your soul to grow. You were supported, seen, loved beyond measure. When you start to remember this, something profound happens. Pain stops feeling like punishment. Instead, it becomes training. Loss is no longer something being taken from you. It's making space for something deeper. Hardships aren't random cruelty, they're keys. Each one unlocking the next level of your soul's journey. And this awareness, it changes everything. Suffering transforms into strength. Fear turns into insight. Doubt becomes a doorway to faith. Now, close your eyes, just for a second. Feel into that idea. If something inside you starts to stir, like a memory that's just on the edge of recall, then you're already beginning to remember. Let's now dive into the first sacred stage your soul experiences before birth. Underscore 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 underscore. Stage 1. The call of the universal consciousness. Have you ever felt a quiet longing for something you couldn't name? Like no matter what you achieve or experience, there's still a subtle emptiness lingering just beneath the surface? That longing isn't your imagination. It's the echo of the first stage of your soul's pre-birth journey, what the Codex Anime calls the call of the universal consciousness. It begins with something greater, a consciousness that exists beyond time and space, sending out a kind of invitation. Not a command, not an obligation, but a loving call that travels across dimensions, resonating like music only your soul can hear. When your soul hears that call, it remembers. It knows it's time. Time to evolve. Time to live again. Time to enter the sacred mystery of physical existence. And in that moment, you were given the ultimate freedom to say yes or no. And if you're here now, watching this, listening to these words, then at some point long ago, you said yes. You chose this. You chose to come back. You chose to experience, to love, to grow, to fall and rise again. And even now, as you live in a human body, that original call still echoes. You hear it in quiet moments, in the sparkle of a child's eye, in the kind of sunset that makes you tear up without knowing why, in those restless questions that traditional systems never seem to answer. That's the call. When you start to hear it consciously, your life begins to shift. You start making decisions that align more with your soul than with society. You feel pulled toward deeper truth. You begin to remember, without needing to understand how. So if this call is vibrating inside you now, you're not broken. You're not lost. You're waking up. Underscore 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 underscore. Let's move forward. Stage 2. The life review. How often do you replay the past in your head, regretting the things you didn't say, the decisions you didn't make, the times you messed up? So many of us carry that invisible weight, guilt, shame, regret. But what if I told you, your soul already reviewed all of it, before you were even born? According to the Codex Anime, the second stage of the pre-birth journey is called the life review. In this moment of infinite clarity, your soul revisits every moment from past lifetimes. But it's not like any judgment you've heard of. There's no courtroom. No punishing deity, no guilt trip. There is only presence and love. You don't just see your actions, you feel them. You feel what others felt because of you, the pain you caused, the joy you sparked, the inspiration you gave. It's all felt in the first person. It's like stepping into everyone else's shoes for a moment and seeing yourself through their eyes. But it's not to shame you. It's to grow you. Because once you've lived that review, you enter this life with the potential for deeper compassion and greater awareness. And that changes how you see your past. You stop obsessing over mistakes. You stop thinking you're unworthy. You understand, you came here to learn. You can even do your own version of a life review right now. Ask yourself, if I could review my life today, what would I want to change? What kind of impact am I leaving? What kind of energy am I giving to the world? That awareness is already changing your soul. Let's pick up from where we left off, at the moment your soul chooses its body and family. Stage 6. The veil of forgetfulness. Once your soul has chosen everything, your mission, your family, your physical body, it comes to one of the most mysterious parts of the journey, the crossing of the veil. This veil is like a sacred curtain between realms. On one side, your soul knows everything, all of your past lives, the reason you came here, the plan you crafted with the Council of Souls. But in order for the human experience to be meaningful, you must forget it all. Not as a punishment, but as a necessary part of the experience. Imagine playing a game where you already know every twist, every turn, and exactly how it ends. There's no challenge in that, no thrill, no transformation. The forgetting makes the remembering meaningful. It makes the pain real, the joy deep, and the choices significant. The CEX anime describes this as the soul stepping through a mist, a glowing fog that gently wipes away the memories, so you can begin again, like a blank canvas. It's an act of bravery, because only by forgetting can you truly rediscover. Only by getting lost can you find your way back home. And while this veil is thick, it's not impenetrable. There are moments, dreams, sudden insights, gut feelings, déjà vu, where the veil thins. In those cracks, your soul speaks. You might not understand it fully, but you feel it, that inner knowing, that sense that there's something more. When you meditate, when you sit in stillness, when you follow your intuition despite not having proof, you begin to poke holes in the veil. And through those holes, light starts to shine. That's how you begin remembering, piece by piece, who you really are. You don't need to remember everything at once. Even a flicker is enough. Because once you realize that you are more than this body, this name, this job, this story, everything begins to shift. Stage 7, the leap of faith, birth. And then comes the final, breathtaking step, birth. The moment your soul, after planning, preparing, and forgetting, takes the leap. The CEX anime calls this the leap of faith. And there's no better name for it. Imagine what it means. An eternal, infinite consciousness, wise beyond human understanding, agreeing to squeeze itself into a tiny, fragile body. Agreeing to be born helpless, vulnerable, unable to speak or even control its limbs. Agreeing to forget everything, and trust that somewhere along the way, it will remember. That is courage. You don't just fall into this world. You leap. Not because you're being punished, but because you knew this experience would offer you something no other realm could. The opportunity to evolve through love, pain, joy, failure, and discovery. As a baby, your soul is still close to its original light. This is why young children often speak of imaginary friends, past lives, or say things that seem too deep for their age. It's not imagination. It's memory, raw and unfiltered. But the world quickly begins to teach us to forget. Society gives us names, labels, expectations. We're told what's possible and what's not. We're taught to doubt what we feel and only trust what we can see. And slowly, the veil thickens again. Yet your soul never stops trying. In your hardest moments, in heartbreak, grief, wonder, awe, your soul stirs. In those quiet seconds when you feel like something is calling you, but you can't quite put your finger on it, that's the whisper. The remembrance. So take a breath. Feel the gravity of your own courage. You chose this life. You chose this body. You chose to play the hardest, most beautiful game ever created, to live as a human, and remember you are divine. And once you start to remember, even a little, you can't go back. Now here's the question no one dares to ask. Why was all of this hidden from us? If this sacred process happens before every birth, if we are all architects of our own journey, if each challenge is something we chose, then why were we never told? Why do we grow up feeling powerless, lost, and disconnected? The answer is as simple as it is unsettling. Because a soul that remembers is a soul that cannot be controlled. Think about it. For thousands of years, those in power, whether political, religious, or social, have understood one fundamental truth. A person who remembers their divine nature does not obey out of fear. They cannot be ruled through guilt. They do not submit to control. What better way to keep people small than to convince them they're powerless? What better way to maintain control than to erase the memory of their origin? This knowledge, the truth about the soul's journey, wasn't just lost. It was buried. Intentionally. The CEX anime is one of many texts that speak of these truths, and like so many others, it was hidden, suppressed, dismissed as myth or fantasy. Mystics, sages, and teachers who tried to awaken humanity were ridiculed, silenced, in some cases, even killed. Because if everyone remembered they were infinite, if everyone realized they are not victims but creators, the systems of control, fear, scarcity, division, would collapse overnight. So yes, this truth was hidden. But truth has a way of surviving. It hides in myths, in dreams, in ancient symbols. It speaks in poetry, in music, in synchronicities. And most of all, it whispers from inside your own heart. You've felt it, haven't you? That sensation that there's more to life than what we're told. That internal restlessness. That tug from something greater. That moment where your heart aches, not from pain, but from a kind of homesickness, for a place you can't name. That's not imagination. That's memory. It's your soul, trying to wake you up. And here's the beautiful truth. No one can stop you from waking up. They can bury the books. They can rewrite history. They can mock the truth-tellers. But they can't stop the soul. Because the power to remember, to reconnect, has always been inside you. And now you have a choice. You can ignore this and go back to sleep. Back to scrolling. Back to distraction. Back to autopilot. Or you can listen. You can break the old patterns. You can reclaim the map. You can live as what you truly are. An eternal, conscious, free being, in a temporary human form. So the question is, are you ready to remember? So what happens once you do begin to remember? Stage 8, the awakening. At first, it's subtle. You start questioning things you used to accept blindly. You become less reactive, more observant. You feel more drawn to nature, silence, depth. You start seeking truth, not in dogma, but in experience. The CEX anime shows this beautifully. A soul walking through the noise of the modern world, advertisements, opinions, distractions, until one day, it pauses. It looks up, and for the first time, it sees. It doesn't have all the answers, but it knows one thing. Something inside has shifted. There's no going back. Awakening isn't an event. It's a process, a remembering, a return. It begins with discomfort, with a sense that the life you've built, the job, the routines, the identity, doesn't quite fit anymore. You start asking, who am I really? Why am I here? What am I afraid to see? Those questions are sacred. They open the path back to your soul. And as you follow that path, strange things begin to happen. You notice synchronicities, patterns that feel too meaningful to be coincidence. You have vivid dreams, messages from the unconscious. You begin to release old versions of yourself, not out of hate, but out of clarity. And the more you trust the process, the more life aligns. But awakening isn't easy. You'll lose people. You'll lose parts of yourself. You might go through a period of what mystics call the dark night of the soul, where everything crumbles and nothing makes sense. This isn't a failure. It's a necessary death of illusion, ego, and false identity. Because before the soul can truly live, the mask must fall. And once it does, what remains is not weakness, but truth, stillness, power. Stage 9, becoming the bridge. As you awaken, you become something rare, a bridge. You're not better than others, but you see more. You feel more. You carry a quiet remembrance that others haven't accessed yet. And your presence becomes medicine. Not because you preach, not because you save, but because you live differently. You love without needing control. You speak without needing to dominate. You forgive without needing an apology. You remember who you are, and that gives others permission to do the same. The CEX anime shows this moment in a single powerful image, a soul standing at the edge of a dark forest, holding a lantern. Behind them, hundreds more begin to wake up and follow. That's the real mission. That's why you chose this life. Not to escape the world, but to light it up. To show, by example, what a free soul looks like. Because one awakened person can shift everything. One voice of truth can pierce centuries of silence. One conscious act can ripple through generations. Final stage, the return. Eventually, this life ends. The body fades. The ego dissolves. But the soul returns. Wiser, fuller, grateful. And when you arrive back, standing before the council, watching the life you lived, something happens. You smile. Not because it was easy. Not because you avoided pain. But because you remembered. You fulfilled the only mission that truly matters. To live in full awareness of who you are. To walk through the fire and come out more luminous. To choose love, again and again, in a world that taught you fear. And then, the soul bows, not out of shame, but reverence. Because now, you are not just a student of the earth. You are a teacher. You are light. And from that place, you begin preparing again. Another life. Another lesson. Another leap. Because that's what souls do. They grow. They forget. They remember. They return. And they do it all in the name of becoming whole. Underscore 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 underscore. Let this truth settle. You were never just born. You chose to come here. You knew it would be hard. And you trusted that you'd remember. And now you have. Welcome back.